Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Area 312 Rock and Metal Vodcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kent, along with my co-host,
Rex.
Friends, today we're welcoming back our very special guests. They're like family to us. We love these guys. They turned heads in 1992 with their debut album, Battle Cries, which was chock full of hard rock, metal, and made-for-radio power ballads. They also turned heads again when they returned as the Dark Horse in 2021 and pelted us with Evie's Little Garden, a wonderful release. And they weren't simply a one-hit wonder back with that album. They turned around the next year and gave us in 2022 Gravedigger, which also smoked, a great album. And friends, they're back now with what is shaping up to be a triple threat with their newest titled album coming out soon, Carnival of Sins. Today we welcome back John Spittle, Stayce Roberts, Malcolm Paris, and Freddy Tierra, also known as the Brave. Welcome, gentlemen. It's an honor.
Your heart is heaven sent, so full of hope, full of wonder, and you love like no other. A prayer so innocent, you see the world through the eyes of a child. Yeah, and it makes me want to smile.
Little golf clap there. No. Guys, of course, we feel like you guys are family. We love you guys. You've been on several times, and it's always a distinct honor and a privilege. So thank you for coming back. And Freddie, it's good to have you back, brother, with us this time. And guys, we just want to delve right in to this newest titled album, Carnival of Sins. I'd like to ask initially, what prompted the title, Carnival of Sins?
Probably the song. Freddie and I were spending some time together last spring, and he was staying with me at the time. And I get out of the shower and I come running into Freddie and I go, hit record. And he hit record, and I said, I've got this chorus. So I showed him this chorus, and we both knew it was something that we could work with. So that's how a lot of our songs start. Not usually in the shower, but just with an idea or a kernel of something, and we develop it. And so I came home later that day, and me and Freddie fleshed out the chords. And as the lyrics came along that weekend, I think we recorded it. I think that weekend, right, Fred?
Yep.
And I think as we were walking through the verses and stuff, and we talked about how everybody in life is tempted with the exact same things. The Bible says, that nothing's new under the sun. All have been tempted and fallen short of the grace of God. And so we wrote this with, well, what if we took the things that you would see at a carnival and compare them to things that we're all tempted with in the world? And we knew subject matter wise, we had a pretty strong subject to talk about. And so as we started going through songs, we have Breathe, we have Rise Again, and When You Believe. That's just the one that always kept sticking out to us. Plus the imagery. We've sent you a couple of pictures that we might have in mind, we might use on the album cover. It was just really strong imagery, and it's something that 100% of people in the world can identify with because we're all tempted with the same things. So for me, that's where it came about.
Gotcha. Now, I'm going to put the cart way ahead of the horse here, Stacey. You mentioned some of the concepts. We'll call them album concepts, some imagery and stuff. And you've sent me a few of those. And friends, you can probably see those toward the end of this episode here. We'll put some of those up for you to see. Stacey, are you guys using a new approach for that imagery with this album? Because as I understand it, you're kind of just maybe playing around with some AI for this instead of maybe looking at an artist portfolio. Is that kind of how you're approaching the artwork?
At this point, honestly, I was just messing around with this app. And I put in a couple ideas, and they turned out, the first things I got back are the things that I sent you. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, this is wrong. The only problem is here in a year or two, every album that you're going to see is going to be generated with AI. So you're going to start seeing a lot of repeat business. When you strike gold with, something like the cover of EVs or the cover of Gravediggers. And again, that's not anything that we did, but we found some artists that just really came up with really, really good ideas. and then, there's also some really strong album covers coming out. Jamie's was pretty cool. And I think that's what kind of inspired me, because it reminded me of that AI kind of stuff. When I say Jamie, I mean Jamie Rowe, with the Calamity Kills album. I saw that album cover, and I'm like, well, that's something that I'd like to see. I liked how it looked. The whole, if you look through the booklet or you look through, his online stuff, there's some really, really cool artwork in there. And so I just started messing around with some AI and got a couple ideas like that. And I thought, well, this is kind of different. Although some of the pictures turned out a little bit almost risque, that really wouldn't work for the audience that we kind of look for. But I do like the idea of, it's almost sinister, because that's how sin is. I mean, that's the first syllable in sinister when you think about it. Sinister. I just made that up, so you guys can use that. But yeah, we'll probably still get an artist. Luke Easter will probably design the inside again. I haven't hit him up yet, but what's up, Luke? Can you do the inside of the album cover? So we'll get to it. He's a buddy of ours, and I always love to work with him. So we'll probably still have contracted to somebody, and then Luke will design the inside for us.
Luke Easter.
Yeah.
Love
graphic design.
Guys, how many tracks would be on this album? Do y'all have something set in stone with how many tracks we're going to be able to be blessed with for this?
It's hard to say, man. We keep throwing stuff back and forth. It'll probably take John or Malcolm to come in and tell us to shut it down and finish this like what we have already. There are about 2 or 3 songs that are older than my boys. They're like, they're 25, 30 years old, these songs. And it didn't matter, as we look back, it didn't matter all the different styles as far as rock that came after. They still could have held in whatever we considered rock genre in that time, I think, anyways. And I tease Stayce. I always say he has like this graveyard of songs, right? And the ones that you guys will get to hear. In fact, I think through the course of the last 2 albums, there were songs that were 20, 30 years old. So this is the ones that are coming out it'll probably be my favorites anyway. They like When You Believe reminded me a lot of when I first met the guys. It was a song that I would record our rehearsals way back then. And, the mixes were horrible because we were inside of a store rehearsing. But as we're driving and playing it, my mom always sang to the song, right? And I'm looking at her like, you don't even know what the words are, but she was still, those were her favorites. So those are important to me anyways, or super awesome that we get to do it.
A prayer is all you need. When you believe in someone, let them go so they can fly. 'Cause you can't help them grow with the tears in your eyes. We all go through the changes, but sometimes love just ain't enough. No.
So, Freddy, are you saying that the song When You Believe is a 20 or 25-year-old song originally?
It actually might be older than me, honestly. Probably in some form.
Well, let me put it this way: the chorus is.
Okay.
The rest of it, we remembered the riff. We've always played it. I think it's a little kind of Van Halen meets White Lion, but the verses I can't. Freddie's got a way better memory than I do. I can't remember yesterday for the most part, but songs are different for me. They're kind of like once they're the song, that's how the song goes. And so usually I remember a lot of I'll remember the music, but I'm real rough with remembering the lyrics. But Rise Again is another one that's going to be on this album that's like that. It's a little heavier tune, and it's got a nice time signature thing that John just ripped to shreds because he loves doing that off that time signature stuff that's, you know, kind of Dream Theater-ish. But I have to, when we go back to the graveyard that Freddie says, the cemetery is getting pretty empty because we've been pulling stuff out of it. I mean, there's only X amount of songs in it, and I'll forget them all. And then Freddie will go, "Hey, remember this one?" And I go, "Yeah, I remember part of it, but I don't remember all of it." So when we say that we're going back that far, Alive is one that was exactly as it was. But When You Believe, the chorus was about all I could remember. The pre-chorus going into it, the verses, I have no idea what it used to be about. But I knew what the sentiment was. So it's close. It's kind of a co-write between 3 decades ago and now. So that's how they end up being. We don't pull them exactly out how they were for the most part, because I can't remember that far back. But usually Freddie can't. So.
Take me, nail me up, and I'll rise again.
John and sometimes Malcolm wasn't always on these songs. So when we give them to them, we have this one song called The Witching Hour. And I know you guys have heard the demo, but man, it's went about 2 levels farther with John's drums and Malcolm's bass and this new stuff Freddie's been sending me. It's probably going to end up being one of the best Brave songs ever, I think. It's different. And and I say that, Rex, because you mentioned that When You Believe is a little bit different as far as the riff goes.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we pride ourselves on is Kent and I were talking the other day, and no boundaries is kind of how this band is.
Mm-hmm.
You might get an album from us next that's a lot like Queensryche, and then you might get one that's like Rick Springfield. It's just whatever mood we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that facetiously. It's just there's a lot of talent in the band. There always has been, and we like to see how far we can push it. You know, so.
Well, something that I find very interesting, you know, and it's funny, Freddie. I mean, you mentioned you were talking about When You Believe and how far back it goes. And one of my next questions was, when did the work first begin on Carnival? And now we know, friends, it's roughly, if you want to get technical, it's like 30 years ago. But something that I find interesting among all the Brave releases is that there is difference, but there's also a common thread throughout the albums. You guys haven't, I love it because you guys have always given me the feels of the late 80s, very early 90s. I don't know how to describe it, but just that particular style of music that was the cruising music back in the day. And you guys have put modern production on it, you know, in recent years, but you guys have stayed true to form, but there's always variety in there. Case in point, friends, our friend Jeremy Brown, who has Torrential Riff, when he was reviewing Gravedigger, he mentioned how the Brave puts a variety in there, and yet there's this common thread. It doesn't sound out of place. So moving right along, guys, a projected release date for Carnival of Sins. Do you have a ballpark of maybe when during the quarter of the year, speaking on a quarterly scale, when could fans expect to find Carnival of Sins available?
Second quarter.
You wanna stay up tonight? Your life is bringing you down. You tell me everything's not the way you want. You need your feet on the ground. Yeah. You only see black and white when you want Kodachrome. Yeah.
Could this be construed, Carnival of Sins, guys? Should this be construed as a concept album, or at the very least, maybe a theme-centric album in any manner?
I don't think so much a theme. Our theme's always going to be Christ. So, I mean, no matter where a title goes or where the songs go, the best I could say is it's where we're at today. Because, I'll use John as an example. He's always playing different. I mean, to me, he always reminds me of kind of a cross between Pat Torpey from Mr. Big and John Bonham. But he always, he comes from different perspectives, I think. Freddie's kind of like that too. I think the songs reflect where we're at musically today, but who knows where we're going to be a year from now. I mean, we might, Freddie and I have a bunch of slower songs that we've actually worked on. There's a song called Father Why. That's a 4 or 5 part kind of a cappella worship type of song. There might be something to be said for a worship album coming up, something of songs that we have. I've got one called Footsteps. I've got one called Ordinary Man, that are stuff that I used to sing in church, but I would like for people to enjoy them and hear them and add them to our catalog. So right now, I don't think it's so much a theme album as it is. All of our albums just start the same. We just start playing and start piecing things together. And the guys, if it's been too long, like this one's been a while. Evie's and Gravedigger were just a year apart. This one, it's not that we don't have enough material. We've got way too much and we love it all. So it's hard I think we're kind of trying to temper it more to where the songs belong together on one. I don't ever want a listener to, and Freddie and I both talk about this all the time, is we don't want somebody to put on Pyromania and only get the pyro part. We want it to go from the P all the way to the A. We want it to be a complete album where every song belongs on it. If you took Billy's Got a Gun from Pyromania and put it on Adrenalize, it doesn't fit. So if you put, any of the ballads that Def Leppard had later and put it on the earlier stuff like High and Dry, it wouldn't be right on that album. So what we're looking for now is the right collection of songs. We have a song called For You that me and Freddie and Malcolm have been playing since probably 89, 90. It's a great song, but it's the same line as Rise Again. So I don't really want them competing for the same type of song so much. But a good melodic power rock song, I don't think you can ever get enough of those. So the problem that I've had as a songwriter lately is Freddie keeps sending me these stupid riffs that are all killer. So every time he does, I go, it only takes me 5 minutes to get a melody for him. So he's got this one that I'm actually working on this afternoon. I don't know what it's called yet, but it fits on the album. And so does the very first riff that he sent me. And the third one he sent me that he just titled after my brother. I don't know why, because I don't ever remember my brother playing it. I hear it at a different tempo, but I could see it fitting on this album. So sifting through all the songs that we have, great problem to have. But we've got enough to where the next album is going to start out with a whole different feel. So not so much a theme, but we just want to make sure that we're giving you guys as listeners a fun listen. From beginning to end. I don't want you to ever to just go, well, skip over that one or skip over that one. So hopefully we haven't done that yet, but we're human, so we'll see.
It's been a great ride, and thanks for what you all have delivered. It's been a great past few years. Left of center question here, gentlemen. For the vinyl enthusiasts, our friends who are vinyl enthusiasts, Gravedigger has yet to see the light of day on vinyl. So perhaps maybe, is there any possibility, guys, with the release of Carnival of Sins, could our vinyl enthusiast friends maybe see that on vinyl, as well as maybe a limited run of Gravedigger 2 come out?
Depends on how many songs. That's the problem with Gravedigger, and that's why we didn't do a vinyl, is you can only fit 45 minutes and on a vinyl. The only reason we were able to do EVs is because we cut 2 songs off of it and we gave them away for free as digital downloads. But maybe that's something we could do with Gravedigger. We could just pick the songs that are going on it And I know you're a vinyl king there, Kent, but it's a possibility. I'm never say never, but at this point, the only focus is on let's finish Carnival of Sin and get it out.
Sure.
So, if I could ask a question, Kent, real quick. If I'm understanding you right, Stayce, Freddy had a lot of musical ideas for this album then, for songs?
Yeah.
Okay.
This everything you're hearing, he either cons me into doing one, which he's done as far back as Evie's. So there's stuff that I'll go, no, I never like looking back so much, but every time I think something's dead, then we play it. There's a song we have called Follow Me that I have completely cut. And it's from our glory days before we got signed, right? Great 2 guitar stuff. It's kind of heavy. Malcolm was on it. I mean, this is in the very early days of Fax. And it was one of our best live songs. But I just haven't found an album for it to fit on yet, right? Freddy talked me into it. Freddy talked me into Run to You. He took, basically, I've always wondered whether he was on it or not. He was always going, bro, you gotta do this. So I go, all right, well, let me just see what's going on. And then I'll start playing. I'm like, this has got some bones to it. You know, this has got some legs that we could update it. You know, I've always wondered is a great example of updating it for a modern sound, like you guys have talked to me about before. But on this album, Freddy at least has done 50% of everything that you're going to hear. But the way we've always played together is we just sit and play. We could care less who does what. There's times where we argue because I'm going, Fred, you do the solo on this. And he goes, no, I like that one. We don't, it's not a contest of who can get the most on it. I even offered to go, dude, let me just worry about vocals. You do all the guitars. He didn't want to do it because we both like each other's playing, you know? So, and we're both different. We both, it's like if you mix a song, you know, if I mix a song and 5 other guys mix it, it's a great song. It's going to be 5 versions of a great song. Right. And they'll all be good mixes, but that's how it is. Whether me or Freddy are the ones playing on something, you'll get 2 different perspectives, but I can guarantee you it's going to be good stuff, you know?
Something that I've noticed, and I know that the Brave has always been a family affair. I know that, you know, you guys have, there've been members kind of in and out and everything. And I know that it's been a family affair, just like what you were talking about, Stacey. But something that I've noticed with the gentleman that I'm looking here right here and now, among the classic years lineup, a la Battle Cries and Trust, Carnival is the first modern years album yielding this particular incarnation of classic years lineup members. And I totally dig it. Freddy, this one goes out to you. How does it feel to lay down some shred with your old band family again?
Oh, it's awesome, man. It's sometimes super unreal.
Take me, fill me up, and I'll rise again. This I do, that you will never feel the pain. Take me, pierce my side, that you may know. When I return, with me is victory.
When we're talking about like writing songs, you know, most of it is talking lyrics and verses and stuff like that. I think we've come from a different way. I like to listen to, when I'm burnt out, I'll go back to listen to Spids and rip off one of his grooves, right? And I'll take that, and then it'll help me springboard into being inspired to do something again, right? The thing that I take away from Malk is I learned so much about like dynamics from Malcolm, right? So I'll blend those things and I'll give it to Stayce, but maybe I didn't have the 5 to 10 minutes to tell him, oh, by the way, I stole that from Spids' groove, right? It's cool that way that, you know, Stayce will sometimes do some, you know, like Witching Hour that Stayce spoke about. When he first played the beginning part for me, it was this, it was just this killer, like Rolling Stones or like Guns N' Roses, November Rain, you know, the octave thing. But that's all that he had at that time. And then we were writing back and forth. And then, you know, the more I heard it, I was like, I don't know if I like this tune so much. I like his verse, but we put Spittle on it, we put Malcolm on it, and it's just become a different. Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at it is to answer your initial question. It's just it's fun, man. It's not just fun, but it's a blessing. This past year, being closer, you know, to my brothers, it's been super important. Something that had to happen, right? So, you know, we probably talk about music. The four of us, we probably talk about music maybe 5% of the time. 95% of the time, we're just trying to make each other laugh, right? So
That's-
sometimes I look at Spittle and wait for him to say something because I don't know if he's playing or joking, but that's what it is.
Now the house of mirrors only show what the devil wants you to see, and the pretty lady is only there just to hide the hypocrisy. You know the freak show's on full display, and the strong man steals the show.
If I could ask a question here for Malcolm and John, and I don't know if we asked this in a prior interview or not, but like, do you guys have probably like a lot of leeway of like what you do with the song? Does like Freddie or Stacy kind of tell you what they'd like to see from the, you know, the bass part or the drum part? Do you just sort of surprise them sometimes? How does that kind of work, guys, with the rhythm part of the song?
Well, Stacy's pretty strict. He likes it his way or no way. I'm joking.
Yeah, right.
I'm joking. So
See?
he'll present a pretty done demo, you know, so I could kind of try and capture what he's going for, but never once has he said, you know, play it just like this, do it just like that. So we all have the creative freedom to make it our own and do our own thing. So there's stuff I do take from like his little demo and I'll go, man, I totally dig that. And I'll play that. Or it's actually essential that that's played because everything's wrote around it. But then also I could change it up and do something different, you know? And I think, and then they get to go back and maybe redo a few things to what me or Malcolm have done. And the song evolves that way in the writing process too. You know, because it might be one way on that demo, but by the time Malcolm and I are done, they might change a guitar part to fit something Malcolm did or whatever. And I think it's a pretty good representation of everybody's playing, in my opinion.
To me, it's cool to see a song go from demo concept, because that's basically just the basic idea Ceci's going for. And then John gets a hold of it and puts a whole another dynamic on it. And that's the part that I'm waiting for, because obviously I'm part of the rhythm section, so I'm gonna stick tight to what John is doing. So sometimes things have to change a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. But it's cool to see it go from demo to a really, really good song. I love that part about it. I think that's my favorite part of the recording process is listening to go from basic idea to finished, because it's completely different. Still
Well, you guys
basically the
have been
same, but different.
around, and Malcolm, you guys have been together now. It probably is, you know, fairly, you kind of know what they're looking for. You guys can kind of agree on, hey, maybe this does need changed or whatever. And so, you know, that's cool too, that everyone just works together as a team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's that kind of last song that we did, the witching hour, you know, Ceci has a pretty much an idea what he's going for. And then sometimes things might not jive up to what he's hearing. But then he kind of spins it again and again, and he's like, oh, yeah, I can work with this. but if something's just not gonna work, I'll go back and do it. But a lot of times, I would say 90% of the times, what John and I lay down is what we say with, and start to just have to deal with it.
And sometimes, like back in the day, recording sessions were, everybody in the same room. So we could all sit around and go, hey, John, do this on this here, and Malcolm, try this, and we try it and come up with 5-10 different ideas before we settle in on something. Here, Stayce gives kind of the blueprint and then sends it to me, and then I put my stuff on it, and then Malcolm, and then sometimes, there's been a couple times where I'll recut something because it wasn't working right or whatever, and then Malcolm gets it and he has to do the same, and then they redo their stuff, and that's just part of molding the song the way you want it to be, but it's a little more hard to do when we're all in separate areas, because you do a whole take, and then if someone says, oh, I hear this, okay, well, I'll do another take. So it just takes a little time, but I think each time that happens, the song gets better and better. So
Every time you've ever seen anything twice, it's never come back less. It always comes back better, because for one, you had another chance to go through the song.
Right.
And I think, to John's point, if we were all in a room, which me and Malcolm and Freddie have been able to do for, years and years ago, it's fun to sit and push each other and challenge each other. It's harder when you're having to, everything you do, you have to transfer to a file. And like when I send the guys something, I got to send things different to John that I send to Malcolm, that I send to Freddie, because all three of them want to hear something different, because I'm in a band full of divas. But John's just like, take the drums out and give it to me. Malcolm needs certain things because of his the way that he breaks it apart and does his parts, and Freddie just wants to hear what he needs to play against. So it's just different for all of us. But I gotta say, just so everybody in the world knows, is that this band is not about Stacey's demos. I wouldn't even say I send a blueprint. I send a rough draft. I can't wait to hear what John does. Can't wait to hear what Malcolm does. Can't wait to hear what Freddie does. Because then a lot of times I just got to trash everything that I played, because I'm like, well, now I got to come at it a different angle. We're all accomplished musicians, so it's fun to just push each other. So
The calendar man was once an innocent guy before the corporate world took up all of his time. He got a house in the hills that is fit for a king. He rocks Italian style and doesn't want for a thing. There was a time that he would pray to the Lord. Now he spends all his time just trying to please the board. It's like the eye of a needle that you can't get through.
Guys, do the songs going from the demo stage to a finished, complete song, after everybody's put their stamp on it, do they feel like your children?
oh yeah.
Let's go around the horn. John, we'll start with you, and then Stacey, we'll finish with you. Can you guys name one song in the Brave catalog that when you've heard it back, it was a wow moment? You're like, from the demo stage, and when it came back to you, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm really surprised at how this turned out. John, is there a song that immediately comes to mind with you for that?
All of them, I guess.
Yeah.
I do have my favorites, but not that it was more of a wow factor than the other. But I just remember, maybe because Stacey and I talked about it, I thought Gravedigger for me was one of those songs. When I heard the production back from JR and heard the finished product, it was like, that's pretty cool, and but and then for me, the very first one I played on when we got all back together after all these years was Evie's Little Garden. And when I heard that finished product come back, I was like, man, that's slamming,
It is.
good to be back. It felt like home, for me, it just felt like home.
Wonderful. Mal, was there particular song that when you heard the playback to it when it was finished, you were like, oh my goodness, this is just great?
Let's see. There's one song that we have called Calendar Man. Calendar Man. And
Yeah.
when first took the demo, um, it took me a couple of lessons to see what was going on there, because what you have to do is you kind of have to crawl into Stayce's mind and way of thinking. Because see, here's the thing finished in his head. So when you got the demo, you're not getting that. But then when John and I got a hold of it and Freddy, man, that's a killer tune. So it's cool because you finally get to hear what Stacey's saying at that point. Because at first you might not be getting that. So I think it was also kind of like that with The Witching Hour. And the first time I heard it, the demo, I immediately thought of Chris Isaac, something that he would do.
Yeah.
Because that's just kind of how it sounded to me. But now that we've got it almost finished, I'm not getting that vibe anymore. So
Just don't call me long after midnight when the shadows start to fall and you're lost in the moonlight and the nightmares start to call.
Malcolm, on that Calendar Man, the chorus, the harmonies are incredible on what the demo that we got. I mean, I can't wait to hear the finished song on that, because that was incredible just with what we've heard.
Thanks, guys.
yeah, having Freddy, man, Freddy really adds a lot to the harmonies. And it's funny because when I first got him, when Freddy first came to the band, 30 years ago, he could sing, but he really doesn't have a grasp on really harmonies. But videos are quick learner, and I taught him. But now, man, he's got it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Freddie, what's a song that's wowed you when you've heard it back? And it can be from any Brave album, but what's a song that's when you heard it back, you were like, wow, we were able to do this together?
I guess one of the closest, I'll tell you this. Waiting to me, I would rather go listen to the demo one than what was recorded on Battle Cries. Only because Stayce had this killer guitar solo. And maybe one day Malcolm has a copy. He'll send the original waiting to you guys. But so when that one came out, I thought, I don't know, because that demo version was so killer for me. So, man, it's super tough. For me, I guess when you're a 14, 15-year-old kid and you write this little riff that ends up being on Battle Cries, it's pretty cool. But Stayce mentioned, I gotta explain this part. There's some, like the guys were saying, Freddy has this riff. I don't know which riff that is because I'm terrible at labeling the tracks. I just sent it to him.
Yes,
Right?
you're very terrible at labeling riffs.
So Malcolm's Stayce is like, hey, that your riff. I'm like, which one? Right? But it's because, I did this riff called, I think I put like Do the Dolph or something like that. And what it was when we rehearsed, when Randy was already singing and Spence was already on drums, they would do this. Those two would be in cahoots to see who they could throw off on the group. Because John can you can be 4/4 and John will take you in and out. And if you're not paying attention, and you make a mistake, he'll just turn his head like he didn't mean to do that, right? But Stayce is metronome, but Spittle will take you like in and out, in and like Witching Hour. This ending, Stayce tells me, you know, take the outro solo, and I'm thinking, no way, you're gonna take the outro solo. I can't count what this guy's playing, right? So I think that's it. It is like you guys said earlier. It's pretty cool to hear how the songs develop, but when they come back from Spids and Malcolm, it's always like, I always look at Stayce like, how'd you know it was gonna turn out like that?
Step inside the carnival of sins, where you can be anything you like, just as long as you give in. Alakazam and your center stage, as the spotlight closes in. You made it all the way to the big top in the carnival.
Well, Stacey, what's a song that you've been especially pleased with that's come back after everybody's put their stamp on it?
Well, there's a lot of the new stuff with that has Freddy on it. That's just, it's so refreshing to hear that again. Because, you know, there were always these two guitar bands that we liked, like Queensryche. We loved Racer X. I was a huge Night Ranger fan. I mean, probably the biggest one that ever existed. But I love the interplay of two guitars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Freddy got in our band, he was only 14 years old, but the dude could just flat out go. He didn't know what he was playing, but I'm like, I know a guy just like that. That was me 5 years ago. You know, I was really fast. I could go all over the fretboard, but I didn't really know where I was going until I learned my first scale at 19. And then I opened up the entire catalog of theory and then taught it all to Freddy. And I think if we're looking at songs, the ones that blew me away the most, hearing John on Evie's before it went to JR just melted my mind, because I was like, it made me feel like what John was saying, back home. It just made me feel like we're back. And that was so exciting to hear. And then, you know, the order of EVs, the way that it goes on the album, that's the order that we did them in. That's the order that I got them back from John. But when I've Always Wondered back. So I guess I kind of got to go album by album here. I've Always Wondered really stoked me. Definitely, We're Not in Kansas Anymore. That to me just sounded like we would sound like in a room playing. That's what the Brave sounded like, you know. I think on Gravedigger was a big one for me when I got it all back and had everybody's parts. You know, the production stuff doesn't surprise me because I do most of it. So I already know what's there, but I don't know what John's going to play. I don't know what Malcolm's going to play. They have carte blanche to do anything that they want. It's just got to be within reason of the song. But we all know that. And we're all mature players. So we all could take 5 or 6 different ways of approaching a song. So I never really know exactly what it's going to be like when it comes back. But I think Undertaker was huge. When I got Undertaker, John, I was like, oh my gosh, this is stupidly good. And I don't mean that facetiously. I just mean when I got John's drums, I was like, oh, what is this? This is killer, right? And there's probably 4 or 5 songs on Gravedigger that I really enjoyed hearing how they ended up.
And now I'm saying to you, when darkness surrounds you, and find you full of fear at night, in those solitary moments, you learn how to fight.
There's a lot of the new stuff that's coming back that I really enjoyed the way it's turning out. I think the real standout for me right now is The Witching Hour, because, and I haven't even heard the finished part, but Freddie keeps sending me these stupid snippets. It'll be 10:30 at night, and I'll be, you know, I go to bed at 8 because I'm at work by 4. I'll wake up in the morning, and him and Malcolm have already had a conversation for 3 hours about it, and there's a video of him playing, and I listened to it, and I'm like, oh yeah, but then by the time I want to respond, Freddie's not awake yet. So well, yeah, I love it all when it comes back, Ken. I love it all. There's a surprise in every single. It's like cereal. There's a surprise in every box.
That's right. Well, let's talk about the 5 songs specifically, the demos. Friends, these will be demos that you're hearing now throughout this episode. They're not the finished product. They're at varying stages of completion, some a little more than others. But the ones that we've heard, and I just want to make mention of this too, I got to hear them for one day. I had a block of time that I listened to them for one day only before I had to be at work for 2 days straight. During those 2 to 3 days off, just for me hearing them during that block of time, I was able to recall them in my mind, certain portions of each song. And to me, friends, that's the making of a good song, because that means there's a hook in there somewhere. So
Yep.
let's talk about these songs here, these 5. When You Believe. Now, to me, it actually sounded like a Hallmark Brave song. It resonates with cheer. It's upbeat. It's got a joyfulness to it that, to me, is kind of the overarching hallmark of the Brave. It's feel good, because the Brave makes me feel good. It speaks of one's heart so full of hope and full of wonder, as the lyrics go. So, guys, Stacey, I don't care. Somebody tell me, When You Believe, what's this song all about? Where are we going with this song?
When faith can set them free, that's when you
When You Believe, for the most part, was already written, and they were already playing it when I joined the band. But what, I could speak to this. What, it didn't even have to, in the beginning when I first heard it, it's that riff that you guys are hearing is the same exact riff. And I mean, it was, I don't know, you'd have to ask Stayce about that one. He's the one that wrote the lyrics. But for me, that riff just, there are 2 riffs when I saw them play the initial time. When You Believe was one, and they opened with I've Always Wondered. Those 2 songs have never been chopped up as far as the layout of the song. Still identical. So that guitar riff, my mom would hum that riff, and I, when she would first do it, I was like, that sounds like When You Believe, right? And then my parents would come. We'd have like the most terrible time slot on the Sunset Strip to play. Sometimes we'd have to go on at 12:30 on a Wednesday or Tuesday, just crazy. But my folks would always be at the gigs, and that is always a riff that she would hum. So.
And my
That's how
folks
I
would
know
always,
it's the song.
folks were at the gig.
What?
I said, and my folks would always hear about Freddy's folks were at the gig. Thanks, guys, for coming.
Well, I think it's interesting that, I felt like it was a Hallmark song. I'm hearing that intro to it, and maybe that's why, because it goes back 30 years. And I think it's wonderful when some of that history is preserved and there's that thread. Rise Again, kind of along the same lines for me. I love the a cappella intro to it. And the lyrics say, take me, nail me up, and I'll rise again. And that could only be from Christ's perspective, as I interpret it as a fan. It comes out as a fist pumping rocker. To me, it reflects on Christ's love for us and the depths that he's gone for us. Guys, whether musically or lyrically, what would any of you all wish to say about Rise Again?
Who am I that he would die for me? Who's this man who says he bore my sins? They said they hardly knew him, but he says I knew you all. One by one, he bought us for the cross.
Well, I would say one of the things I always loved about that song was those are the lyrics from 30 years ago. And the humility, and I think what we all struggle with is, how could Jesus love me? I mean, I'm not worthy of unconditional love, right? But when it starts out and says, who am I that he would die for me? Who's this man who says he bore my sin? That's a guy just reaching out going, what is this I'm hearing about? What is this? You're telling me that no matter what I've done, he loves me in spite of myself. I love that message. And just going into the chorus, it says, I can hear him say, Take Me, Nail Me Up and I'll Rise Again. That's the price he paid for everybody. That's the reason that we, as good as this band can be at producing a really good song, there's nothing bigger than attaching Christ and what he did for everybody. You know, humanity is an absolute train wreck right now. And everybody here right now that's talking on this podcast, that's watching this podcast, may very well see Christ come out of the sky. I mean, we're at that point. You know, I mean, the book of Revelation is just one by one, just the cards are getting tipped over and being revealed. And I think we're all kind of in a position right now of saying that very thing. Who am I that he would die for me? Who's this man that says he bore my sins? They said they hardly knew him, but he said he knew us all one by one. He bought us for the call. To me, that's some of the heaviest stuff that we've ever talked about. And it's a privilege that I actually get to sing those, because James was the one that actually sang those, and he killed it when he did. You know, every time I got to sing one of those songs that James sang, it's hard for me because I'm like, he did it so well. Can I, you know, am I going to be able to do this? And somehow I tend to get through them. But that song lyrically to me is one of the most special songs I think we've ever done. So.
Well, and you know, I love the message of that song. And just for the record, I like to state, James, we certainly love and remember you, and thank you for being the vessel that you are. And I also, and James, your voice is great. Stacey, your voice is also great. And again, you blessed us with 2 great albums with your lead vocals on there. I'm talking about great albums, and I've no doubt Carnival of Sins is going to be just awesome too. So thank you for that. Now, the title track, Carnival of Sins, just step right up and try your luck in the greatest show on earth. You can have anything you'd ever want, but you got to punch your ticket first. Guys, is someone playing against a stacked or loaded deck here in this song?
Every person in humanity. The Carnival of Sins is there's one deck of cards. When you come out of the womb, at some point you're going to be dealt every one of those cards, and you got to make your decision of where you're going to stand in life. You know, it goes on to say, you know, the bearded lady is only here to hide the hypocrisy. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in life, and the devil knows how to play every one of them to his strengths. And I, you know, hey, the guys all have their own takes on this, but I write most of these lyrics. I wrote these with Freddy. We were just firing things off. What would you see in a carnival, and how can we apply it to the sins that are available? You know, the strong man steals the show. All of these things are just bells and whistles. It's smoke and mirrors. It's just lights. It's like a Kiss concert. There's tons of great stuff for 2 hours, but after that, you still just go home and you're still who you are. If you buy in to the plate that the devil lays before you, you're being sold a bill of goods, and there is no end game where it works out in your favor. So I call it a carnival of sins because you see all the lights, you see all the sideshows, you see all of the ploys that the devil's going to try to somehow either get you addicted, get you strung out on something, get you stuck in a bad relationship, get you stuck with feeling, you know, that maybe God doesn't exist or maybe God doesn't love me. And it's all bull. It's all a joke. Nobody knows the world like the devil does. So it's a song and dance. And so it's like when you're born, you walk into a carnival of sins, and you got to decide whether you're just going to walk through it and ignore it, or punch your ticket and go take every ride. And even in that, there's grace. Even if you do, most of us have been through all of it. But another lyrically cool tune, I think. So I don't know what the other guys think on it, but
I dig it.
I've also noted, and I don't know, I know some in the band are King's X fans. You know,
all of us.
Rex and I are too. There's a King, to me, it's a King's X-ish type bridge in that song. I really like the bridge or the middle 8, whatever you want to call it in the song. kind of harkened to some King's X type stuff. I thought was cool.
Thank you.
What is that part?
Say what, Freddie?
Did you forget it already?
Yeah.
And also at the end.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Oh no, I know the parts, Fred. You know the ones where we sang? Those parts.
Speaking of singing, there's an Eagles-like, some Eagles-like BGV, some backing vocals, a la witchy womanish type stuff in the song "The Witching Hour." I don't know if this was intentional or not. I mean that as a compliment. I'm the Eagles, of course,
We love
just
them.
wonderful vocals all the way around. They knew their stuff. Guys, The Witching Hour, I'm not trying to play favorites because there's something I like in each and every song that we've been blessed to hear as demos. To me, there's something special about Witching Hour, and I think it's because the delivery is so unique, just kind of like Gravedigger was. They sound nothing alike, but the Gravedigger had such a unique intro. You know, nobody knows where the Gravedigger goes. This has its own unique intro.
Kent's trying to audition for the band.
Say what, Freddie?
Well, he's like me.
I said, Kent's trying to take your gig in the band.
No, I
Just
smoked
kidding. I'm
two
just
packs of
kidding.
Camel Unfiltered before I came. No, I'm teasing. Guys, the Witching Hour, great song, so unique. I love the Pick Moody guitar intro and the lower registry vocal delivery. You want to stay up tonight. Your life is bringing you down. Was that on purpose, the up and down juxtaposition lyrically? I thought that was cool when I realized you want to stay up tonight. Your life is bringing you down. Some cool wordplay there. You feel so all alone. There's a hint of Billy Idol in your vocal delivery there, Stacey, you know, a la Eyes Without a Face or Sweet 16. Guys, in this song, is someone in their darkest hour here?
You are bound by the bloodline of the one who owns the power. You had nothing to fear, my friend. Don't believe in the witching hour.
Yes. Yeah. Not only in the darkest hour, but if Freddie knows anything about me, and he knows pretty much all of it, he knows that I'm going to be that guy that's going to be, you can sit there and you can complain to me all day long, and I'll tell you the truth and I'll listen. But at some point, I'm going to say, stand on your own 2 feet. You know the maker, you know who holds the power. You're bred from his bloodline, so you're covered in the blood of Jesus. It's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet, and instead of getting caught up in, oh, the devil's got me, make your stand. Be strong in him, because he told us we could be. So it's not an admonishment by any stretch, because a lot of our songs, we kind of try and look at that lonely person, or that person who feels like he doesn't belong, he or she, that's just looking for answers. Running all my life was that way. I've been running all my life down this long and lonely road. Well, that's all of us. So I think it's more of a healthy admonishment to a friend of just saying, you're a child of God. Quit acting like you're not. So, and wasn't there a nod to the Eagles? Well, Freddie came up with the ooze in the choruses, and then at the end it just seemed to fit. So I came up with those. But I think every song we write, we give a nod to the Eagles, to ELO, to King's X, to Led Zeppelin. I like all the vocal bands. Journey is one of my favorite bands of all time, the Beatles. So our choruses are always going to have something to do with those. But I do agree, there's always some King's X sneaking into our stuff. I think that's wonderful that people would even say that. But we all love those big vocal songs. We love the little kind of just inflections of harmonies that make you think for a second that, oh, that was kind of neat, or that was kind of cool. And I think on Carnival of Sins, as a matter of fact, Freddie and I found some really neat things we like to do drone notes, which are notes that don't change, even though the chords are changing. Michael Sweet does a lot of that. Styx did a lot of it. Stryper did a lot of it. You know, by the way, Michael Sweet was in that band. I thought I'd get Freddy to spit that out.
So, Calendar Man, guys. He's got cash in the bank and a trophy wife, but he never invests in what's important in life. So, you know, what I get from this, guys, it's a man who has it all here, and yet he has nothing. And for the record, this reminds me of actually Matthew 6:19 and 20, where Jesus tells us, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and vermin destroy, but store up treasures in heaven. And it kind of reminded me of that. So, the Calendar Man, he's kind of running out of time here, isn't he, guys?
The calendar man says it's alright, but nobody knows when he cries at night. The calendar man says he's okay, but something inside tells him to pray every night when there's just no hope inside. Yeah, no one knows what it's like to be the calendar man.
That plus what good is it for you to gain the whole world if you forfeit your own soul in the process? One of the things in that lyric, Kent, is you see the guy, he knows there's something missing. He knows, nobody knows when he cries at night is one of the lyrics. Something inside tells him to pray. He's struggling. He's every man. He just happens to be successful. So yeah, you can have all the trappings of this world, but that's why they call it a trap, because you got to keep feeding the beast. And are you ever going to be able to stand up and say what you believe in, or I'm lonely, or I'm hurting, or I've done something I don't know if I can be forgiven for? That's the Calendar Man. He's it talks about how good he is at his game. I mean, he's top shelf. He's never late. He's always there. He's the man for the job, but he's hurting inside, and that's got to be 99.9% of humanity. So, but as far as the music side of that, that's a fun song. That came fast, came quick. It was probably a 10-minute write, and it was before I went to work. Sat down, had the chords on the keyboard, recorded it on my phone, came home that day and put the basic tracks down, and we developed it from that. So, some songs come that way. Some of them you got to labor over, but that was one of those quick songs. One of my favorites.
Guys, I'm going to switch gears. Rex, do you have any more questions regarding the demos in Carnival of Sins?
No, but I will just add, Stayce, again, that the harmonies in Calendar Man are awesome sounding. I love it.
That's me and Fred having fun.
That's awesome.
Guys, I want to switch gears for just a second and pick up with something that we talked about in the previous discussion regarding Christmas Eve and Christmas every day, or Christmas every day. Is that still something that's in the works? Can we expect that out or down the road, or is that something that's kind of been put on the shelf for a bit?
It's not on the shelf. It's just on the back burner until Carnival of Sins is done.
Okay. Side note then, Stacey, did you tell me at one point that you might release as a single maybe the song Heavy that you done with Larry Worley?
I'm almost done with the mix. I started 2 days ago, and Larry just sent me a text before we started today, and he says, still waiting, because I told him last week I was working on the mix. But it's almost done. I played it for my wife last night. She was pretty happy with it. So yeah, that'll be coming out this month. It's that close. I mean, I'm hours away from it being done. So Freddie will hear it tomorrow. I'll send it to the guys, because both John and Malcolm and Freddie, all three of them have played on it, as well as me. So that wasn't the plan, but one by one, I'm like, well, I started out with John, and I thought, well, Malcolm probably has something. Well, Fred, what do you think of this? Oh, give me a chord. So that's just how we are. We love to play on stuff, and but yeah, that one's going to be done, and then we have another one called Silver Mountain. That's a beautiful ballad that Larry wrote. It's done. I just got to mix it. So I would say probably by somewhere in March, people are going to be hearing Worley and Roberts Heavy, and then they'll hear Silver Mountain after that. But we're going to release them both as singles. And then today, I just got the tracks from Larry Larry Dean, for the Emanate project. I've been blessed enough to be asked to sing on that with some other really heavy singers that I don't know why he called me, but these are all singers that I love. You know, John Elefante, I think, was on the last stuff. I think Ray Parra is going to be on this. So, and he's one of my favorites, you know, so it's like, I don't know why anybody knocked on my door, but I'm happy that they did. So I'm going to be working on that maybe this afternoon. But this is the final ones that he sent me. I'm also going to be playing guitar on it. So there's several players that have been asked to play on it. I understand, you know, that I'd be asked to play some guitar. I don't understand why you would ask me to sing, but he's such a cool guy. I mean, he can ask me to do anything. Ask me to play maracas, and I'd figure out how to do it.
Stacey,
Very honored.
you have a wonderful voice. You're a great guitar player and you have a wonderful voice, and super talented band here amongst everybody. Friends, the place to find Brave material, Carnival of Sins, when it comes out second quarter, as Stacey said, it's thebravemusic.com. And of course, we'll post that. I will do my best to memo to myself here, post it on the screen as well in the description below. John, we're going to start with you. We'll go to Mal, Freddie, and Stacey, let you close it out regarding the music or regarding the message or regarding your friends who love and support you guys. What would you wish to say to them? John, we'll start with you.
I think the message is pretty clear. You know, I think we are in dark times, and I think the world's become a dark place. Hence, Carnival of Sins and that kind of stuff. I think it's very fitting, and I know some people might think that when you see the album cover and you see some of the stuff and the name, that it's really dark, but it's really not. It's actually talking about turning that darkness around. You know, and so I just hope people give it a fair subjective listen when they hear that stuff.
Yeah.
Mal?
I just want to say to the folks that have been listening to us for 30 plus years, you know, thank you for your support. And I've also noticed we're getting some guys who thought we dropped off the map after Battle Cries. And then, you know, they realized they were back at it. And I just can't believe it. So thank you for those guys too, and all the newcomers coming in. There's people that never ever heard of us, and I think, you know, EVs or Gravedigger was the first time they heard us, and it's blown away. So it's cool to see all those kind of different people out there. So thank you all for that. We wouldn't be able to do this without y'all. So thank you.
Thank you, Mal. Love your bass playing. Love you guys. Love the Brave. And Freddie, glad you're back here with us today. What would you like to say, brother?
Man, it just, you know, first and foremost, you know, thanking God that I'm still around to be able to get to do it again. Especially for, you know, these three are my family, just like my immediate family here. But both sides have been so, you know, patient with me, and then pretty much allowing for me to get to do this all over again. You know, there was a time there where I just didn't have the time, you know, stuck in different stuff, but it's been it's been an awesome year, you know, with first time out, you know, being closer to Stayce. The first week I'm out here, we're like dreading that a flood is going to wipe the whole town out. It was crazy, right? But just this, I think it's symbolic of, you know, how the year started and how it ended. And again, you know, the main thing is we're all in one piece. You know, my family is doing awesome. You know, I can circle back with Spids, Malcolm, Stay 20, 30 years later. If I send a text, that text will sound like we just had a conversation yesterday. You know, we pick it up just like that. But yeah, man, you know, that's what it is, and I'm super thankful to be able to get to do it
Well, it's
again.
good to have you. Good to see you back. You know, Freddie, good to have you back. So I'm super pumped that you're back with the boys here. The boys are back in town, right?
Right, that's right.
Stacey, what would you like to say?
Well, I'm thrilled that I get to make music with my three best friends. You know, I mean, it's every part that gets sent to me, and believe me, it's like an assembly line. I'll get something from Malcolm one day. If I send a song out, I'm getting stuff all week from different parts of the country that are going on to this album from these guys, and I just loved listening to it. You know, because I get to, you know, like when John sends his drums, he's sending it as a stereo. We're just getting a stereo file of everything that's on there, so it's all blended together. But the tracks I get are all the individual tracks, the ones that are actually going to get mixed, and I get to hear everything. And same with Malcolm. You know, he's how Malcolm does what he does is beyond me, but I'm so proud of him for being able to answer the call and do it at a high level. I mean, his bass parts they're not lame little bass parts. He's got some really intricate stuff in there. And, you know, he always had the feel. He always had the rhythm. We started out at the same time. So we were both trying to figure a fretboard out at the same time. 5 years later, I figure it out, and then I'm showing it to Freddy. Then he figures it out. And then now he shows me stuff and I show him stuff. And it's just great to make music with your friends. But it's most important that I really feel like we've got a mantle on our shoulders to elevate the game, not just for ourselves, but for other bands that are out there. If you're gonna do it at a high level, do the best you can do, and have something to say, have something that's memorable. You know, I also think about all the time as a songwriter. I always think about, would I enjoy listening to this song at a stoplight? If I have a road trip, and you and I have talked about this, Kent, before, about if I'm going to go on a three-hour road trip, is the Brave going to be able to entertain me all the way? I hope so. You know, we're getting a pretty good catalog out there. I also would say that the biggest holdup this last year was me. I was going through a lot with my company. I was going through a lot personally that kind of rocked the wheels of progress. And but I'm back in the saddle now, and I'll be spending the rest of this afternoon in the studio finishing the mix with for Larry and me. Today or tomorrow, I'll be sending it to him, and then I'm working on all things Brave, and I'll work on the Emanate project with Larry Dean, and Carnival of Sins. When you guys get to hear it, by the time people are listening to this, pre-sales will have opened. So as soon as whoever's listening to this anywhere in the world, you can order the album as soon as this interview is over. Thanks to our two friends, Kent and Rex, who are dear brothers of ours. And, you know, just so everybody knows, we don't just talk on here. I mean, we're friends outside of this. And I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate what you guys have done for the Brave, because you kind of helped put us out there and made us relevant again. And I mean, I don't think Evie's would have been the success it was without your guys' input, without Jeremy, without, you know, Joel, with all the guys, Iridium, all the guys that really kind of helped carry the torch for it. And looking forward to those same outlets helping Carnival of Sins get out there.
Stacey, we didn't have a choice. This had to be talked about. It was that
Yeah.
good.
Well,
Same can
thank
be
you.
said for this. So thank you guys. And I sincerely mean that. Musically, I am so proud to, you know, tell people to listen to this, because musically, you guys have a high bar. And I'm also pleased it's not heavy-handed, as you and I talked about, Stacey. It's not heavy-handed, but I'm so grateful too that, and there are other bands too, but you guys have never shied away from simply talking about the good news of Christ,
right.
his grace and love for us. And I'm thankful that I don't have to play guessing games with that. I understand what you guys are talking about. It's the total package. John, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mal. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, Stacey. And also want to thank from times past. I want to thank James, and I also want to thank Mr. Irwin from the Trust album. And I also want to thank the late, great Randy. So love the Brave, absolutely love the Brave. And we're proud and happy to carry the torch for you, our brothers. With that said, Rex, I'll bring it to you, and you can take us the message from home.
Sure. Well, I was thinking of the band's name, and this scripture kind of spoke to me, and it's from the Old Testament. It's First Chronicles chapter 19, verse 13, and it says, "Be strong and let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight." And the Brave has been carrying the torch and fighting the good fight and just getting the word out. And as you've said, Stayce, we're and John too, we're in some dark times here. And you guys are just showing people that the true and perfect way to live. So, and I want to tag on what Kent said. I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but just, yeah, we love you guys, and thank you so much for everything you've done. And you are good friends of ours, and we just love you. And so we just want to thank you for continuing to do this. So thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
You guys.
Okay.
Well, guys, thank you again for blessing us, and look forward to Carnival of Sins. And with that said, we'll just wave goodbye to our friends. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Stick around for one more minute, guys. And friends, the website is thebravemusic.com. Take care, everybody.